Here, Mary woke to birdsong and the smell of fresh-baked ginger cake, and later played piano while the drawing-room curtains swelled on the breeze. John Henry took breakfast with his wife, read the St. Landry Clarion, the Atlantic Monthly, Outdoor Life, the latest Picayune, then worked on plans to further expand his business. The Davenport boys, George, Paul, and Sonny, watched by Nanny Nellie, spent their days playing cowboys and Indians, chasing dun-colored rabbits, and kicking a ball to one another. In the afternoons, John Henry instructed them in an aspect of scoutcraft. This summer day was muggy, but oak trees surrounding the house offered enough shade that John Henry, Mary, and their guests, Ira and Gladys Heaton, and Gladys's mother, Mrs. Billingham, would sit outside, as John Henry preferred. "Perhaps air will ease my headaches. Now that my daughter has declared my homeopathics quackery, I'm left to suffer without relief." Mrs. Billingham fanned herself. "You know the pastilles help. There's no reason to resist every modernity." Gladys turned to Mary. "Eucalyptus and cocaine. They work wonders." "Without any relief at all." As the group enjoyed their sweet tea, bees harvested nearby crepe myrtle trees, and hummingbirds flew from foxgloves to hollyhocks in search of nectar. The Davenport boys had joined the adults for a while that morning, squatting near the woodpile with their toy soldiers, unobserved, Nanny Nellie having been permitted a rare afternoon and evening off to visit her mother, until they'd grown restless and begged to go exploring. "In search of what?" Mrs. Billingham asked. "Life's compass," John Henry replied. The men discussed business. John Henry's furniture manufacturing company had sold 1,000 chairs in the past 18 months, and Ira Heaton's stationery company had secured a significant government contract. Gladys chattered about millinery, bemoaned her rust-red hair, envied Mary's glossy blackness. Mary worried about the boys. She feigned interest when Gladys, holding up an open copy of the Delineator, said, "Here's the ribbon, I mean," and offered a sympathetic murmur when Mrs. Billingham confided that the pastilles made her pulse race. When she went indoors, ostensibly to check with Cook that she'd remembered Mrs. Billingham's aversion to pepper, Mary shared her concern with her housekeeper, Esmeralda. "What if the boys meet with fire ants, snakes, alligators?" Esmeralda folded her hands over her dusting cloth. "Mr. Davenport's taught them how to behave in the outdoors. They won't come to harm." "There's no behavior that fends off an alligator aside from firing a rifle," Mary said, though Esmeralda had, as always, calmed her. At noon, as John Henry led Ira to the library to show him a recently acquired map of Peru, the women strolled in the garden, and John Henry's butler, Mason, pulled on his boots to go fetch the boys. George and Paul Davenport walked up the hill without their brother. Mary stopped by the rose bushes. Gladys and Mrs. Billingham followed suit. "George," Mary said, "where's Sonny? We thought maybe he'd be here." "Why would you think that?" Mrs. Billingham tisked. "We looked every other place, shouted and whistled. He's no good at hiding, except this time. Dropped Hop, though." Paul held Sonny's toy rabbit aloft by its threadbare arm. "I said we'd name him the winner. Only had to show himself," George said. "It's true he said that." "Where is he, then?" Mary's voice quickened. Behind her, Gladys placed her fingertips on her mother's arm. "Don't know," Paul shrugged. Mary looked across the grassy expanse and glaring lake to the forest. Nothing moved. She grabbed Paul's wrist and pushed George's shoulder to turn him around. "Inside, now," she called for John Henry as she hurried the boys up the front steps. Sonny wasn't in the garden. He wasn't in the thickets or on the rope swing or in the shed. And though John Henry and Iris scoured the forest and lake's edge with Mason, they didn't find the boy. While the adults searched, George and Paul sat on the porch steps, forbidden by Mary from moving 1 inch. "He's hiding to get us into trouble," Paul said to Esmeralda. George waved a fly from his face. "You don't know anything." "I know I'm hungry,"